evening, all.
Good evening.
Thank you. It's too much, thank you. Yeah, I'm not using it. All right, you can hear me, right?
What's it?
Exactly. It's not because of the money. All right. So we're going to start a little bit. Don't be too nervous about these things over here. The cameras do not see you. So you can answer whatever you'd like. Just please preface it with your name and address. Thank you. Okay, yeah, and social. Okay, just to start off over here, I'd like to ask a question. We know that in Judaism, we have two different categories of people that we deal with quite often. It comes up where it's going to be very soon, believe it or not. We have the Yom HaMenorah, the High Holy Days are coming up, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and that's going to be, what do you mean coming up? What am I talking about? So we have Tammuz Av, after Av is the next month, and then Elul is right before Rosh Hashanah. So maybe we're going to start seeing these concepts very, very soon. Something known as a tzaddik, which means a righteous person, and then something known as a rasha, which is a evil or wicked type of person. All right? And the question is, what is the difference between a tzaddik, a righteous person, and a rasha, a wicked person? Begin.
Their intention.
Who said that? Their intention. That is one answer. Give me another one.
The balance of the Russia is that he does more prayers and less mitzvahs, and the tzaddik does more mitzvahs and less.
Good. Tzaddik does, let's say, follows more of the things he's supposed to follow. The rasha does less, and perhaps focuses on not the positive, but on the negative things. But give me another one. What's the difference between the tzaddik and a rasha? The way you look at them, right? The way you're going to look at them and view them. So I'll tell you one thing, which is a very big issue for those who grew up in a religious background. Did anyone here grow up religious? An observant home? Anyone grew up in an observant home? Okay, so those who grew up in an observant home, they have a very, not always, but sometimes can get a very skewed view on what is a righteous person and what is a wicked person. So let's take a look and see what I'm talking about. What I mean is like this. There's a publication, which unfortunately one of the main people from this publication, Zlata, just passed away, called Art Scroll. Okay, Art Scroll is very well known, been around for 40 plus years. And they came out with a lot of books. They come out with a lot of biographies of great big Torah sages and what we call Talmidei Chachamim or Tzaddikim, great holy people. And the mistake that some people make is that, at least as someone who grew up religious, a lot of times, you grew up observant, you're shown these righteous people and then you read books about them. And when you read books about them, they're very not normal books. What I mean by that is they talk about them as if they were born from the womb. They came out with like long beards, completely dressed, turning to their mothers and so, please, get dressed, not modest, and making blessings when they were nervous, like the whole thing, as if they were always these righteous, amazing, beautiful people. And then when you take a look at that, now again, you have to, for those who understand me. For those who don't, that makes sense if you didn't grow up with this mentality. But what ends up happening is, it's a big turnoff really, because then you end up thinking, well then I basically have no hope, right? Because you have a person that was born this way, right? And I'm born a different way. They're born that way, and here I am born in a way which I'm totally different. So they have an opportunity to be great, and I don't have an opportunity to be great anymore. But the reality is that that's not the case. The case is that we were not no person was born as a righteous, unbelievable, amazing person. It doesn't work like that. If I can go so far as to say, if I could say something which is a little bit, if I could just tell you a little Lashon Hara, if I could just speak negatively just a little bit about the Chafetz Chaim. Now, if you understand what I just said, this is a big no-no. This is like straight to hell, what I'm going to share with you. Anyway, so the Chafetz Chaim was a very great sage of Yisrael Meir HaKohen Kagan from 1839 to 1933, I believe it is, right? And he was known as the Chafetz Chaim for whatever the reason is. Moving along. Great holy rabbi. One of the books he wrote, called Chafetz Chaim, I guess where they have it, therefore it's called the Chafetz Chaim, which means the desire of life, based off a verse found in Tehillim, Psalms, chapter 34, I believe, says King David, Mia Isha Chafetz Chaim, who's the one who desires life, essentially who wants to live. Watch the way you speak. Guard the way you speak. And he wrote a book about it. He wrote a book about speech. He was very careful not to speak negatively about anyone. And I'm now going to speak negatively about him. Here we go. Rav Hutner, so now just to bring it in, that's not just me who's doing it, Rav Hutner is the one who brings this down, and he mentions that the Chofetz Chaim spoke Lashon Hara. He would speak negatively about people. When was this? When did the Chofetz Chaim speak negatively about people? About Shina or something, yeah. Okay, when else did he speak negatively?
Maybe when he was admonishing people.
Okay, come on, give me something else, people. Come on, give me more.
First of all, he brought up halachas about when you're allowed to tell it, but I don't know if that's considered lashon hara.
Right, okay, it's Lashon Hara, it's mutter, yeah? When did he speak Lashon Hara? Perhaps it was not mutter.
Maybe when he was a kid.
By himself.
Good, when he was a little child.
There's
You know the story of the
about
smack on the thing, right? But when he was a little child, you think the Chofetz Chaim came out of the womb, and as he's a little kid, he's like 2 years old, and he sees another kid, and the other one goes, "That's bad." He goes, "No, don't speak like that. Lashon Hara, come on, you can't talk." Of course not. He spoke negatively also when he was a little kid, but he worked on himself, and he grew, and he grew, and he grew, and it became who he was. What's the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha, a wicked person and a righteous person? Now listen, why am I asking this question? Because no matter which direction you look at yourself like, don't be stuck in that place. In other words, if you're a tzaddik, if you're righteous, don't think you're so far off from becoming wicked. And if you look at yourself like you're wicked, don't think you're so far off from being righteous. What happens is sometimes we look at ourselves in a negative way, and therefore when we look at ourselves in a certain negative way, we become that way. Right? Everybody get that concept? Very simple. You look at yourself a way, you become that way. Right? Each of you, a person goes after what they praise, the way in which they speak, which is why, I always heard that someone speaks a certain way, it becomes reality. Yeah, I heard it from a few different sources. One from a fellow named Ford, if you heard of him before. He made a couple of cars. And before that, I heard from, they say it was Confucius. I also saw on the bottom of a Snapple cap, right, that says, whether you say you can or you say you cannot, it doesn't matter, you're right. Everybody get that concept? Whether you say you can or you say you cannot, it doesn't matter, you're right. If you say you can, you'll be able to overcome things you never could have imagined. If you say you cannot, you shut yourself down, you're done, you're finished. That's what's total terminados. You understand? A person wants to be able to grow, a person wants to be able to succeed, a person wants to get higher and higher, higher and higher. Don't speak negatively about yourself. This is why I always heard, never say, "I'm so stupid." Never say that, even if it's true. Don't say it, because then it becomes more of a reality. You start to live like that. So a person says, "Oh, I'm bad anyway, I'm wicked, right? I'm a Russia, I'm a bad person." Fine, let's say you are. Let's say you are. But the more you say it, the more you stay that way, right? The more you say it, the more you stay it. Yeah, the more you say it, the more you stay it. And therefore, if you just want to get out of it, you want to break on through to the other side, you want to be something else, you can do it. You can do it. But understand, how could you do it? You're not so far off. What's the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha, a wicked person and a righteous person? They're not so far off. What do I mean? Of course, they're miles apart, but they're not so far off, meaning there's so many similarities. Let me give you another misconception that we move forward. Another misconception idea of what's between a tzaddik and a rasha, a wicked person and a righteous person, is the very famous verse which states the following idea. I'll start it, you finish it. Kisheva Yipol Tzaddik V'kom, right? Which means what? The righteous person falls 7 times, however, and he gets back up. Now here's where it comes down to. A righteous and a wicked person. Someone says, well, a righteous person, they got their thing. They're always doing the right thing. Everything's always good. They never have problems. Everything is great. Everything's wonderful. And every one of us do that, right? Everyone's looking at other people and we judge. We say, oh, they have a great life. Oh, everything's good for them. Easy for you to say, okay? Because you have everything going for you. What do you know? You have no idea what's going on in people's lives. We have no idea. The grass is always greener on the other side, right? If you're in Seattle, it's even better to be involved with that. But understand, when we're talking about the concept of reality, and we say, oh, someone else, what they're going through, you have no idea what people are going through. A righteous person, we know, never falls. Correct or incorrect? Says the pasuk, Ki sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. Does a righteous person fall? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Does a righteous person fall? Yes or no?
7.
That's right, 7 times. What's 7? Why 7 times? Every day of the week. Tell me, who knows a little Hebrew? Say it again. Including the Holy Sabbath. Who speaks a little Hebrew? Who speaks a little Hebrew? What is strange about the pasuk? Kisheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam. Welcome back. What is strange about the verse Kisheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam? What does it mean in English? Anyone? Good. Good. It's not in past tense. When it says that the righteous person, Yipol means, what is it? One would have expected means that the righteous person fell 7 times, but he got up. It doesn't say that. It's future tense. Lo nafal Yipol, he will fall. When's he going to fall? Again and again and again. And what's going to happen? Over and over and over. Righteous people fall. What's the difference between the righteous and the wicked people? What's the difference? The difference between a righteous person and a wicked person is that the righteous person actually gets up. Everybody falls. We all fall, but do you get back up again? How many times have you tried to do something in your life and you fail? I mean, you leave it at that. You leave it at that. And you don't go back to what it was. No, I tried again, okay? And then I failed again. Okay, so you failed again. Did you try again? Yeah, I tried again, I failed again, and I just gave up. People, the tzaddik understands something. You're going to fall, you're going to fall, you're going to fall, you're going to fall. You're going to fall, you're going to fall, you're going to fall. I think we got 7. You're going to fall 7 times, but you're going to get up. Get up, stand up, fall, you're right. Don't give up the fight. You got to keep pushing. Push it some more. Oh yeah, it's going to be hard. But if you don't push, you're going to fall and you're going to stay there. And some of us are like, just wake me up when it's all over. When I'm wiser and I'm older. You know what I mean? Like, why do I got to do this now? No, right now you just got to get up. Righteous people fall, wicked people fall, but the difference is the righteous person says, I fell, but I get up again. How many people get knocked down, but you get up again? You're never going to keep you down. You understand? How many people here know people that you grew up with, that you were both involved, you and them were involved in certain projects, whatever it may be, and you fell off and you stopped doing it, but they continued, and you didn't know that they continued, and you meet them years later, and not only did they continue, they succeeded in epic levels. Does anyone know someone like that? Yes or no? Anyone know someone like that? If you know someone, just look at me blankly. Good, so you all know someone. All right, we all know people like that. We all know people that we gave up learning a language. We gave up learning how to play an instrument. We gave up on a certain project they kept going with it. We gave up on Facebook and they stole it. We gave up on, that's too personal. But we gave up on certain things and they kept going with it. Look where they are today. It's not a matter of, this is almost like I was on a plane and I was, I was sitting next, I was flying from somewhere to Toronto. I don't know where I was. Maybe Philly. Maybe I was in Philly. Maybe I was in Montreal. I don't know where I was. But I know it was from somewhere to Toronto. I wouldn't have even remembered the Toronto part if not for the fact that I sat next to this woman. Now, I didn't even sit next to her at first. This was a senior citizen. And the reason I say it like that is because she told me, that's how she introduced herself. I am a senior citizen. I said, okay. She goes, and I am loving it. I said, what does that mean? What does that mean? She had just turned 64, and apparently in Canada, 64 is senior citizen, you get your card. And she goes, now I just play everyone as if I need things because I'm a senior citizen. And since I'm a senior citizen, they give it to me. So what was happening? We were sitting at an exit row. And I get on the plane, it was like 2-2. It was like smallish, but okay, 2-2. And I sat in the exit row, and I had the seat next to the window, and then the one next to me was open. I was like, okay, great, good, myself. And then like a minute later, this woman sits down next to me and goes, I am a senior citizen, right? And I was like, I am not. I don't know what to say to you. Thanks for sharing that with me. She was sitting a couple rows back, and she said, excuse me, I'm a senior citizen, can you move me up? That's how she said it. And she sits next to me, and she's like, suckers. She thinks like 64, like I'm too old. And we start talking. And she starts telling me, she's Jewish, a secular woman, but she starts telling me, she looked at me, I don't know why she thought I was religious, but she started thinking that, she started speaking with me about different things within religion or whatever. So I said, and she starts telling me she had a friend, and she had a friend that she grew up with, and this friend of hers started to become observant, started to become religious. They both grew up in a secular home, started to become religious. She said this was her best friend. And as they got older and older, she saw that her friend was becoming more and more into her Judaism, and she was not. And okay, they haven't spoken every year. Nothing bad. They just, their lives parted, and here she is, a senior citizen. At the ripe old age, according to her, of 64. And she's saying how, maybe I should have done things differently. What she starts to say. Maybe I should have done things a little differently. I guess what I could have done is I could have maybe gone to more classes like she did. I guess what I could have done, and she starts giving me a whole list of things that she regrets she didn't do. And I turned to her, I don't remember her name, because I confused it with another Toronto story, but there was a woman, and her name, we'll call her Woman. And I said, Woman. And she said, that's a little disrespectful. I said, well, you're a senior citizen, I was hoping you wouldn't notice. I said, Woman. I said, Woman. She goes, yeah. I said, if you don't let me stopping you, you sound like you're eulogizing someone. She goes, what do you mean? I said, you are not dead. If you really feel like you should have done certain things, do them. Go now and do them. Now, depending on the age and stage in people's lives, it becomes a little more difficult or less difficult. But it's never you can't do something. And when someone goes and says, oh, I wish I would have done such a thing, it's true. You wish you would have, and it would have been great to have done, and you didn't do it. Let's call it what it is. You didn't. You messed up according to your understanding. Okay, so now change it. She goes, yeah, you're right, I really should. I was like, yeah, rocket science. Just change it. The Rasha, the wicked person, and that's a heavy word, wicked. What makes you wicked? If you give up. You give up, you're wicked. What are you giving up for? Keep going. Push. Go a little more. And that's every single person in this room, by the way, in every area. Pick an area of your life. This depends on you. But the interesting thing that she did point out, though, is that what did she do that changed her trajectory, or more accurately, her friend? What did her friend do that changed the trajectory where they were like this? They were parallel, and now one is here and one is here. What was done? What was the difference in what they did? And now I'm going to share with you another idea of the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha, a wicked person and a righteous person. This is a wild idea, beautiful. See, the Talmud says something very heavy. The Talmud, which is found in Sukkah on page 52, I think. You're not going to check, so I can make it up. The Talmud states a very fascinating idea. It says that righteous people are going to look back on their lives, and they're going to see events in their lives as what the Talmud calls it kichut se'ara. No, sorry. They're going to see it like big mountains, big mountains. And the wicked people are going to look back on their lives and look at their lives, the things that they've done, the challenges, as kichut se'ara. Kichut se'ara means like a hair's breadth. Meaning to say it like this. Okay, I'll give you like an idea that I once heard somewhere, and then I'll tell you where I saw something from the Saba from the Vardik in the Sefer Madrigas Adam brings down the next idea which I'm going to say, which is literally life altering. It will change your life. It will change your life. I'm not saying for the better, but your life will change. Listen to this. What are we talking about here? We're talking about, you got two people. And they're looking back at their life challenges. They're looking back at the things that they've done or that they haven't done. They're looking back at the things, in particular, on the particular challenges that they had as they went through life. And the wicked person looks at the challenge in a way of like, oh, it was a small little hair, like it was a nothing. And the righteous person looks like a huge mountain. Let me ask you guys a question. Has anyone here ever been faced with a challenge where they wanted to do something that they knew they shouldn't do? Question mark. One. I have one person. Let me say that again. Okay, maybe that was hard. Was that difficult? Should we change the language? One more time. Have you ever had a challenge in your life where you knew you shouldn't do something, but you wanted to do it? Yes or no?
Sure.
6. Good. We're getting closer. Have you ever had a challenge? Can you turn the camera on that woman right now? Right, have you ever had a challenge? Yes or no? Have you had a challenge like that? Tell us what it was. Come on, share with the class. Okay, good. Yeah, we know what it is. We don't really, but okay. You ever had a challenge? You've had a challenge in your life? Yes or no? Yes. Have you had a challenge in life? And you're gonna love. Okay. Have you ever had a challenge in your life where you knew you shouldn't? Yes or no? You've had that before.
I have friends with them.
Hey, friends. Me too. I have some friends like that. We can share those friends. Right? Okay. So let's take a look and see what happens. You're standing in front of the challenge and you want to do it, but you know you shouldn't. What do you do? What?
Pray and run.
Pray and run. Okay, I would say it differently. Run and pray. Right, that would be the more accurate order. And the Talmud even says, "Hevi borech min ha'avera ki borech min ha'ish." You should run away from sin like you run away from fire. I know a friend of mine let's call it a friend, okay? A friend of mine that was once in a circumstance where he was alone with the opposite gender, and he had a tremendous urge to be involved in speaking with them, whatever that means. Translate that in your own language. And but there was going to be no words. Anyway, so they were going to communicate. And that tremendous urge at that moment, and the guy yelled out loud. He yells, "Fire!" He goes, "Where?" He's like, "Oh, no, no!" And he ran out of the room. And it's actually based on the Talmud. The Talmud says on page 82 in Kiddushin, I think again, it says that the story about a rabbi, also another interesting one found on page 75 in Sanhedrin, another similar Hallelujah Batina story, but it's the opposite angle. But going back over here from 82 in Kiddushin, that there was a rabbi who saw this woman on the second floor in an attic. Now back in the day, how did they get to the attic? They had a ladder they'd have to lift and put up. And this ladder, it took 10 people to carry this ladder in order to put it up. He saw this woman, he was already an older man. He saw this woman up on the second floor. He took the ladder by himself, lifted it up, adrenaline, put it up there, and starts walking up the steps to speak with her. And what happened was, at the moment he starts going up, so what did he do? He felt himself, he yells out, "Fire!" Now back in the day, what did people do if you yell fire? Everyone would come running with buckets of water, right? That's how you did it. They're like, call 911. Call who? What? What are you saying? 911! Right? So they laugh and they go, "Fire!" And people would come running with buckets, and they all came running in, and they saw it, and this old man on the ladder, and they're like, "Where's the fire?" And he's like, "Okay, you already put it out." He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It was in my heart. I had fire in my heart. I had a passion to do something which is wrong. But you already put it out." Good, so run. Run, scream, fire, and do what you got to do. You're standing in front of the urge. You have a temptation to do something wrong. The food you shouldn't be involved with, the person you shouldn't be involved with, the opportunity, the money, the cash, the stash, whatever it is, it's there. And you feel that urge. And you're thinking, "I really shouldn't do this." Anyone had that before? I really shouldn't do this. And what's the next sentence you say? I really shouldn't have done that. Right? You hear that? Right? So it starts with, "I really shouldn't do this." And afterwards, like, why did I do that? And tell me, people, let's talk about food. Let's talk about food, because it's my favorite subject. Let's talk about food. Is anyone here, okay, you better answer this question or I'm going to call you out. I'm just going to let you know. I'm going to go one by one. Has anyone here ever been on a diet before? In a diet before? None of you in this section? None of you? Yeah, right. None of you. That's it. Give me this camera. None of you? Okay, fine. You prefer life plan? Who's been on a life plan? Is that better? All right, there we go. The life plan. Have you ever been on a life plan before and you're standing in front of chocolate? Maybe this doesn't talk to you, it talks to me. Chocolate. If you started hearing things from your food, that's a problem, but they talk to me. Chocolate with, let's say it's a piece of chocolate with chocolate on it, that's filled with chocolate, okay? Now, with chocolate on top and under it and on the sides. The whole thing is just flipping chocolate, this whole thing, with the fondue stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Did they call it fondue? What's it called, fondue?
Yes.
You know that you're supposed to put things like fruit or whatever, yeah? I put chocolate under that thing. Put chocolate, to get fondue, and then put it back. And then put the fondue on it. And there you are, you're standing in front of it, and you know you shouldn't have this. You know you shouldn't have it. But you really want it, but you know you shouldn't have it. But you really know you shouldn't have it. And what happens? You're looking at it, and you're like, "I want it, but I really shouldn't." And the chocolate says back, "Just a little." "After all that we've been through, I will make it up to you." Really? No. "I promise." No. So what happens? You have this urge, and you fall to it. What happens the moment you fall to the urge? How do you feel? Feel regret. Do any of you at that moment feel, I so could have not done it? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Say it again. Not with chocolate. Okay, let's say something else then. Fill in the blank with what that is. Yeah, you do it, and when you finish that, you do whatever that thing. Let's say you fall to whatever that thing is, yeah? You fall to it. A second later, you're like, I can't believe I fell to that. First of all, it wasn't even worth it. Because it was Parav. Second of all, you start to think they're like, oh, it was 70%. You know, like, come on, if I'm going to go for this, it's got to be all margarine, right? And then afterwards, you find out, I could have overcome it. We've had that feeling, I could have overcome it. What does it mean when the Talmud says in Sukkah, what page was it? 52, Kiddushin 82. In Sukkah 52, what does it mean when it says that if a person goes ahead, and when they go ahead, and the first time they do the wrong thing, after they do it, it says about the tzaddik, the righteous person looks back and he sees a mountain. The wicked person looks back and sees a little hair's breadth because the righteous person didn't fall to it. Now watch what happens. To a person who has an urge and a temptation, how strong is that temptation? Weak or strong?
Strong.
Good. It's strong is strong. We're getting there, right? Strong is strong. After you do it, how strong is the temptation? Very weak to non-existent. You get it? It went from unbelievably powerful to nothing. It becomes like this little strand of hair that you could have just thrown away, cut, stepped over, walked away from it. Get it? What happens if you overcome the challenge and you don't fall to it? What does that challenge look like?
It's small.
Small?
Small.
It remains in the same status of challenge. You've just put it in a box. Now this is important to understand.
Small box.
You put it in a huge box. And I'll explain to what I mean by this. Anyone who's greater than a friend, the greater you become, the more of an evil inclination you get. Is it like, why would I become greater? Wouldn't it be better for me not to become great? Let me remain low and just have a small Yitzhar evil inclination. Why should I want to become greater and have a bigger evil inclination? That's tantamount to a person saying, you know that when you go ahead and you make money, that the IRS can get you at any point. Right here it's Mas Haknasa, they call it, which happens to be the same numerical value as Amalek. Okay, which I wish I was kidding, but it's 240. You can check. Anyway, so they can get you at any time. So do you say the following? Well, if is there a greater chance or less of a chance of you being audited if you're making more money?
Yes.
Greater chance. So I might as well make little money. Let me just make very little money and have less of a chance. Would anybody say that here?
I think here it has more to do with your political stance, but.
Okay. We have some
Protects you.
theories going on now. Now we're talking. All right. So what happens? A person goes ahead, and the more influence you have, the more money you have, the more chances you have in order to be able to get called out. So I have an idea. Don't make any money. Or I have a better idea. How about make the money? Just do it legally. You understand? And be careful. When a person becomes greater, their evil inclination grows with them. But if you stay strong, you're able to keep that thing in a box. It's like a diet. If anyone here has actually stayed on a diet for longer than a day, then perhaps you've experienced, usually it takes a few weeks until you start to then kick in to the point where you're not even tempted by that thing anymore. Does anybody get what I just said? You know, you see that thing? Some of you, if you don't get it, then I see you haven't gotten past a few weeks. And if you get it, then I see it, right? So what happens after a few weeks? You say like, oh, I don't need that. I can overcome that challenge. Get it? I can overcome that challenge. What happens, though, if you're at a state after a month of being on a diet, you're good, you have it in check, and you're at a party, and they have food there, and you go, you look at it, you're not so tempted, but you say, you know what, maybe I'll just have a bite, just for old time's sake, you know? You're not even so pulled by it, you're just like bored, you know, or you're there, and there's nothing else, you're a little hungry. So you say, let me have a little bit. What happens when you have a little bit? What happens? That box that just held in that tremendous temptation, explodes open. Tell me something. You ever notice that when a person eats not healthy, then starts eating healthy, and then goes back to eating non-healthy, do they go back to where they were, or do they go even much lower? You ever get that? You break your diet, you then eat things you never would have eaten before, you go like much worse. What does that mean? Why? It's just because your temptation was building. The building was just in a box and you're holding it. As long as you keep it in the box, you're fine. But if you open up Pandora's box, you done, baby. You finished. Yeah, it's over. All of a sudden, explosion of chocolate. So let's take a look and see. A person who goes ahead and they die and they look back in their life and the challenges that they had, but they didn't fall to, they look back at it and they're like, whoa, look at that mountain. Look at that mountain. It's huge. Look at that huge mountain that I overcame. The wicked person who falls to his temptation, and all that mountain now became that little hair because he doesn't have that temptation anymore. He looks back and goes, oh my gosh, that was it? I could have overcome that, and I didn't. How foolish I feel. Does everybody get this? Let's take it one step deeper. And now we get to the Sabbath from the Vardik. He says the following, and we mentioned the Sefer Madrigas Adam. He explains, he explains, he explains, he explains. If you're watching this on video, don't say Amen, but everyone here should say Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nihiyeh b'dvaro. Amen. You said Amen, didn't you? All right, anyway, here we go. He explains like this. What's the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha? So we have Kisheva Yipol Tzaddik V'Ka. The righteous one falls, but he gets back up. The wicked one falls and he stays down. We got a bit deeper with understanding the Talmud in 52 in Sukkah, which tells us, I hope that's right, because I've said it so many times by now, I better be right. That says that what happens, they look back and they see it's like this huge mountain, the righteous people. And what are the wicked people looking at? Like this little hair's breadth that they could have overcome. Because when you fall to the temptation, all of that desire now dissipates and it's over. It was just an illusion. But if you never fall to it, it remains in that status. You could have it in check, but it remains in that status. That's why those who became righteous and fall off the path, they go way off the path. Anybody knows somebody who grew up in a religious home and left Judaism? Perhaps you know them personally. Take a look and see what happens to those people. They go way off. As opposed to a person who, just does things they shouldn't, whatever it is what it is. Here says the Saba from the Vardik, the following idea. What's the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha? Essentially, it's the way in which we view certain things that we've done in our lives. Allow me to explain. Has anyone here ever said, I will never fill in the blank? Has anyone ever said that?
Yes.
We got this side, back, middle, over there. Anyone? Yes? Looks good for the video, people. Right? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, no questions now, thank you. Okay, so we've all had times in our lives when we said, I will never. Tell me, have any of you ever said, I will never, and then you did it? Yeah? You ever said, I will never, and you did it? You ever said, I will never, and you did it? You ever said, I will never, and you did it? That depends. Have you ever said, I will never? This can go both directions, a positive or a negative. You said, I will never fill in the blank. It can be positive or negative, and then you end up doing it. Now, I need someone here who feels comfortable as a volunteer. I'm not going to ask you what it actually was. Don't worry. Who feels comfortable? Okay. What's your name? Don't say it. Okay, here we go. We'll call you Stacy.
Woman.
Yeah, there you go. Woman. Okay, from Toronto? You are now. All right, listen. Here we go. I can say your name. What's your name?
Ari.
Ari? Okay, Ari. You've been in circumstances where you said, I will never, correct? You said, I will never, you did. Is that correct?
So I probably won't ever.
Okay, you're being a little more honest.
The things I've actually said I would never do, I have not done.
Wow. So you're done. Anybody else? Anybody here? Come on over here. Come on. All single ladies. All the single ladies. Okay, you. What's your name? Ari?
Sarah.
Okay, Sarah. Oh, with an H?
Never do tshuva.
You look like the H thing. Okay, now, Sarah with an H. Sarah. Okay, here we go. Just to argument's sake, we're going to say it again. Have you said I'm never going to? And you did. Yes? And then you perhaps continued on in doing more things because of the thing that you did. Yeah, it's taking you places. Now, how did it happen? I'm not asking you for the example. I'm not telling you for the circumstance. Can you remember what it was going all the way back that by doing this, that's what brought you to be able to do what you said you'd never do? Does that make sense what I just said to you? Can you think of what it was?
Yeah.
You can. So that you have the thing in your mind you said you'd never do and you did. And you also can bring it back to the original thing you did that opened up the door to fall. Yes or no?
I think so.
You think so? The thing, the original thing, was the original sin. Was the original thing that you did, was that thing a huge thing or a very small thing?
A medium thing.
Medium? Medium. So you went, you're telling me, now let's go back to the medium thing. Was there anything before the medium thing that allowed you to do the medium thing? The medium thing was the very first thing. That's quite interesting. Now tell us the example. Is there a video or something? Okay, so I like this. Yeah, let's take a look. I find it very interesting you say medium. I don't know what that means. I've never heard that before. But let's play it through. It certainly wasn't huge. You could think back. Could you have overcome the medium thing? Would it have been hard to walk away from the medium thing? You could have stopped that, right? Could have stopped it. Now here's where the bottom line, this is where things get very crazy. All of you, I'm assuming, are familiar with the story of Adam and Eve. Is that correct?
Yes.
Adam and Eve. Okay, what happens with Adam and Eve? Adam and Eve, they're not allowed to eat from the tree, and they end up eating from the tree. The snake comes along, and he tempts, he goes to Eve, and he says, Eve, eat from the tree. What does she say?
No, am I supposed to?
Not supposed to touch.
Keep going.
Not supposed to touch it.
Why? What will happen if you touch it? Eve says, I can't eat from the tree. Not only can't I eat from the tree, I can't even touch the tree. Can't touch that. Burn it. Because if I touch the tree, bum, bum, you're going to die. Bum, bum. You can't touch the tree. Because if you touch the tree, you die. He says, really? Now, for those who know the storyline, is that true?
No.
If you touch the tree, would you die?
No.
The answer is no, you will not die by touching the tree. So why did she say that? That's because according to the Sifsei Chachamim on Rashi, brings down the idea that really it was Adam Harishon, Adam told her and added that. God said don't eat, he added don't even touch. And he didn't explain to her that it's just a precaution. It doesn't mean the actual thing itself. She understood that to mean the actual thing himself, that if she touches it, she's going to die. And she goes ahead and he says, don't touch the tree. And the snake goes, don't worry about it, eat from it. No, I can't even touch it. Why will happen? You'll die. So what does he do? He trips her.
Actually, it was just a little correction. He said, after you like the Chanukot, that was the initial trick.
Go on.
He said, for a minute, he says, no, it's only from this tree that if you eat it. Because he misled her from the very beginning.
The whole thing, even before all this, even all
He
this.
said everything is forbidden. So.
Good. Good, yes. The main focus now is just this part. What happens? He goes ahead and she touches a tree. And what happens? Does she die?
No.
She doesn't die. And now she's like, oh my goodness. Well, now she's all confused. And then she ends up that the snake gets her to eat from the tree. And she does. She gives him Adam. And then here we are today. In not such a good state for those who don't know the state we're in. Bad state because of that. All right. Tell me something, people. What was the mistake in the story of Eve and the snake? What was the mistake?
Well, Adam lied to her.
Okay, Adam.
When you hear something which you think is going to happen to you, it doesn't happen to you, then you go further, do worse things. They said I was going to die if I do this. and only touch it, and I didn't die, so maybe I can go and eat.
Good.
Everything
So we
around.
see something which you say, if this, do this, something's going to happen. You see it doesn't happen, so I'm willing to go even further. There's something even before that. What was the mistake?
Telling her?
What?
Telling her?
Who telling who?
Adam telling Chava?
What was the mistake? Let me be more specific, but I think I said these words. I'll say it again. What was the mistake by Eve and the snake?
Engaging in conversation.
What?
Engaging in conversation.
Excellent. What was the mistake of Eve and the snake? The fact that Eve even entertained a conversation with someone who's trying to get her to do something she shouldn't be doing. So everybody get what just happened? So let me give you a little insight to what this means. Okay, for let's say, I don't know who's single, who's not here, but for the single ladies, I'm going to warn you about something. Single gentlemen, I'm sorry for giving away trade secrets. Where's your downfall, ladies? Your downfall is, if let's say you're sitting at a bus stop and a guy comes to pick you up. That's awkward, but let's say he puts you down. And then he wants to get you to date, okay? So he comes with a line. You're walking by as he's sitting there, let's say, and he goes, oh, hey, so where are you from? Right, so you already know these scumbags. So you're smart enough to ignore them. But they are sly and cunning. And they say, oh, I understand that you must be in a rush. It looks like you need to redo your hair because it seems to be very frizzy and off. You then turn and go, excuse me? You're done now. Now you're toast. Excuse me? What'd you say about my hair? Nothing, no, I'm so sorry. I mean, I didn't know it was your hair. I thought it was a dead cat. I just, whatever. How dare, well, you probably use herbal essence, don't you? And you're like, whatever, why? Yeah? And he goes, no, it's okay, just relax. So where are you from? Everybody hear what just happened? You have now been caught. The problem and the real issue was that Eve even entertained having a conversation with this inclination, which brought about the destruction and death to the world. Everybody hears that? That small little or perhaps medium thing, that small little or perhaps medium thing that happened is the very opening that now moves everything forward. Do you hear that? Why does the Talmud say, when it goes and it says that a tzaddik looks back and he sees this huge mountain, and the wicked person sees this small little thing, says the Talmud in Shabbos, this is the way of the evil inclination. Hayom a little bit, tomorrow a little bit, do today a little bit, do tomorrow a little bit, do tomorrow a little more, until you violate every violation and end up doing idolatry. Come on, that's crazy. The Yetzer Hara understands, evil inclination understands, he can't get you to do the wrong thing right away. I mean, a person, again, who grew up religious and is religious right now? Anybody? Yeah? So if I told you right now, go break Shabbos. It's on Shabbos, or Shabbat, same holiday. Which one do you know? You know both? Okay. So he says, go break Shabbat. Okay, go break the Shabbat. Sabbath. Go break it. Well, what do you say? No thanks? No thanks. Thank you so much for the offer.
Chas v'shalom.
Chas v'shalom. What do you, whoever they are, but we won't do it. Yes? Forget, of course not. It's not even in the realm of your, what? Break shot? Like, what are you talking about? I grew up with my whole life. Person who didn't grow up with it is a different story, but somebody grew up with your whole life, like, what? It's how he knows he can't get you by just saying, now, go mess around with a married person. Go rob a bank, right? It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So what does he say instead? You have some peas and carrots on your plate. And like, you're not a big fan of peas, but you like carrots. So you kind of just pick out the peas from the carrots.
On Shabbos.
On Shabbos. Thank you for qualifying that. On Shabbos. Now some of you are thinking, what is he talking about? Because you don't have a background in some very basic information that comes with the laws of Sabbath. Others are like, oh no, be careful, chayiv skila. There is a violation on Shabbos that one is not allowed to separate things that they don't want from things that they want. We look at Shabbos as things they don't want from things they want. Things you want from you don't want, you can pull apart to use now. But things that you don't want, you're not allowed to take away. So for example, if I have peas and carrots and I want to eat the carrots, so I'm allowed to take the carrots and eat them. I'm not allowed to take the peas and put them aside and then eat the carrots because I took what I don't want and separated that. Why that is, a whole other discussion, which we will probably never have. But it's a whole other discussion. You're welcome to look into it. Person goes out, you think like, oh, don't break Shabbat. What does that mean, don't break Shabbat? Don't drive a car, don't kill anyone on Shabbat, or on Shabbat. Okay, good things like that. Rob a bank on Shabbat. But like what, peas and carrots? Are you out of your mind? Are you right-wing, ultra-Orthodox, fanatic? Oh my goodness, okay, Haredi. Yeah, like, you're crazy. I said, no, this is like simple, Lamitas Malachos, right in the beginning, when I think number 7 or 8, whatever it is, right in the first 11 Malachos that we have, is Borer. Are you more inclined to drive a car on Shabbat or to separate a pea and carrot? You get it? Because we don't look, this all depends on how we're raised a lot of times, but at least I wasn't raised to see peas and carrots as the same as driving a car. So of course I'm going to drive a car. Okay, there's an onion there, I don't like onions, take out the onion. Big deal. 2 stories, getting drunk in the stone. Big deal.
Those are not in the same category.
Right, but they are.
Because one is public and knowing, the other one's quiet, private.
Wow, driving up a private road. Master Wayne.
Driving might not be the right.
Oh, it depends what kind of car you have. You're showing how wealthy you are. Very nice. Good. It's right, yeah. Okay, so back to, without getting too detailed over here, the bottom line is both are Isur Doraisa. One of them is going to be something which is going to be B'far Hestia, perhaps that's something which you have to give up your life for, or whatever it is, but okay. But anyway, point is they're both pretty bad. Yeah? How about turning on a light? Would you turn on a light? Don't tell me the light's the Shabbos switch. Yeah? We're not getting involved in that now, right? But a person will more quickly separate a pea and carrot than they will turn on the light, and the light might be totally dark on it, right? Amazing what we have over here going on. Okay, at the end of the day, for those who don't understand what I'm talking about, let's bring it back. The Yetzer Hara understands, I'm not going to get someone by going big. So I got to go little, or medium. I got to start little medium in order to get you. Once you fall to that, you're welcome to do the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Let's go to the thing you said you'd never do after you've done all the other steps, and now you're at that big thing. And you fall to it, which you have, is that correct, at some point in your life? Was it a challenge?
To not do it?
Well, in other words, did you at the time you were about to do whatever it was, think you shouldn't? Or it was so far at that stage, you're like, it doesn't even matter anymore. Amazing. Amazing, I mean, here's that. So far that we don't even know, it's not a challenge at all, because of course I'm going to do the wrong thing. Everybody hears that? How many of you have caught yourself at the moment beforehand? You're like, I really shouldn't do this. Out of 10 times, how many of the times do you walk away from it?
7.
That's pretty, I think you got it the wrong way. You fall 7 times, and even more than that perhaps. You know what the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha is? Eizehu chacham, who's considered a wise person? What's that? Alon because I'm talking about something else now. What is it? Haroa et hanolad, somebody who looks into the future. Looks into the future. What does that mean? That means somebody who is intelligent enough to take a moment before they make a decision and ask themselves, where is this decision going to take me down the road? Because every step you take, I believe we spoke last time about it as well, every move you make, he'll be watching you. Can't you see? You belong to him. Everything that you do puts you on a trajectory. Let's go back to woman on plane. These two women are living parallel lives. This woman decides to make a decision that starts to shift, but that shift is so minute that you don't even notice the shift. This is for better or worse. Let's talk about positivity. That positive thing, let's say, I will never do such a positive thing. It shifts more, it shifts more, it shifts more, until you look a couple years down the line, you're in a totally different lifestyle that you never would have imagined you would have been here. How did I get there? Anyone in this room? Is there anyone in this room right now that if I would have asked you a month ago or 2 months ago, do you think you'd be sitting in this room listening to a class from some guy who looks Jewish? Don't judge me, okay? Yeah? Any of you? I would have said to you 3 months ago, you'll be sitting in a room. Would you say, yeah, that makes sense? You'd have been like, are you out of your mind? The answer is yes, but it's not for now. You get it? Or any of you perhaps have been through things years ago, you'd say, I'm here today, I can't believe it. This doesn't make any sense. The answer is it makes perfect sense. It's a decision that you made at some point in your life, and that decision brought you to a whole new direction that you can't even imagine how you got here. So now let's understand what the Saba from Navardik says. You know what the difference between a righteous person and a tzaddik and a rasha is, a righteous and wicked? That a righteous person looks at every action in his life like what? Like a mountain. Every decision he's going to make, he looks at it and says, okay, here's the decision. What will that be like in a few years? In other words, every decision you make is monumental. What does a wicked person say? What's the big deal? It's a small little thing. What does this small little thing even matter? What does this small little thing even matter? Is it a big deal if I go and I hang out in this place, or I eat that, or I talk like this, or I dress as follows, etc.? Does it really make a difference? The answer is yes, because that, my friends, is the gateway to take you to a whole nother life, for better or worse. And that depends on the most minute, small decisions. So the wicked person looks at every decision as a chut sa'ara, like a small little hairbreadth, and that's the Yetzer Hara. He says it's just a small thing, don't worry, but before you know it, you're doing idolatry. And the righteous person looks at every decision, no way I'm doing that, because you know where that could take me? That could take me to crazy places. For example, I'm going to give you an example which a friend of mine said. I don't usually give this example. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't know enough about it, that's the truth. But I'll give you an example. Facebook. No big deal, right? What's the big deal in having a Facebook account? What's the big deal of having a Facebook account? It's beautiful. I want to share with you a startling statistic. 43% of divorces in the United States mention the word Facebook. 43% of divorces in the United States, we'll wear an answer around that. 43% of divorces in the United States mention the word Facebook. What can even be the problem? Now pardon me for this, I don't know you guys. The rasha says, what could be the problem? The tzaddik says, are you nuts? Do you know where this can take you? Do you understand the impact of what this could do to your life? The answer is some people are so confused. What could it do to my life? I don't know. Maybe you can get in contact with old people. Isn't that beautiful? Sometimes. Sometimes it's really not. You can get involved with old friends. And who knows where that leads to? 43% of people know. Where does that lead to? What's the big deal if I live my life in a way, where they get, people are crazy now with like phones and things like get filters, don't get filters. You should know something. It's not just ultra-Orthodox people that discuss the concept of filters. 99% of the filters are made by non-Jews. Because they understand the impact of what the internet can do to you. If you're watching it now on the internet, wonderful. It understand the impact of what the internet can do to you. Some of you are old enough to remember a time when there was no internet. Does anybody remember that? Yeah, remember that? Yeah, quite some time ago. Internet, by the way, has been around for a long time. Internet's been around since, if I'm not mistaken, 19... So have you. You've been around, at least what I'm going to share with you. Internet's been around since 1973, but it wasn't big like it was now until 93, 94, 1994 time, when it started to explode, and with, you've got mail, American, you've got mail, right? And what happened over there? And then all of a sudden, before you know it, do you remember a time?
Before that, there was no images.
That's right.
It was all text.
That's right, it was all text. It was all information. Now if there's no image, what do? You leave the page. You understand? We become so brain dead from this concept. What's the big deal? 43% mentioned Facebook. 100% of life's mess-ups have something to do with that. Yeah.
What percentage of marriages are made on Facebook? Somebody comes to Facebook who is a friend, sets them up with a friend.
6.5%. 6.5%. I have no idea. But the question is, what percentage of those that were set up on Facebook end up, God forbid, going the other way because of Facebook? And don't misunderstand me. This is what everyone likes to go and they say, that crazy fanatic, all he said was Facebook is bad. So what are you talking about? Facebook is bad. I didn't say that. I said it's horrible. I want to explain to you what I mean by this. What I mean by this is of course good things come from these things. Amazing things come from it. Unbelievable. You can have a shear that's posted it on that thing, right? It's there, a shear that's there, a beautiful stuff. And you could also find donors for 6 people, and you can go and heal the world, make it a better, but there are plenty of good things. Everything in life is good and bad. Everything is good and bad. Question is, are you monitoring it? Or is it completely open? The intelligent person, the tzaddik, says, do you understand the ramifications of living your life completely and totally unfiltered? Your life unfiltered? I don't want to go down that road. The wicked person says, don't be ridiculous. Why are you thinking so far ahead? Just deal with the issue right now. It's a small, little thing. Is he wrong? No, he's right. It is a small thing. But that small thing, if we would have stopped it when it was just medium, never would have gotten to that big part where we don't even care anymore. Does everybody get that? This, my friends, very much connects. And we're going to wrap it up with this idea that the Talmud says, I believe in Eruvin, there's something known as Derech Aruka Shehi Kitzara and Derech Kitzara Shehi Aruka. Derech Aruka Shehi Kitzara means the long, short road. Derech Kitzara Shehi Aruka means the short, long road. What does that mean? Has anyone here ever taken a shortcut, and that shortcut ended up taking you a heck of a lot longer than if you just would have not taken it? Yes or no? And has anyone here ever gone the long way, but that long way turned out to be very quick? Quicker than you would have expected? This, my friends, is where comes Chachma. We like to cut corners, we like to go fast. Life in the fast lane, and we like to go ahead and rip it. But little do we know that the faster you go doesn't mean you're going to get there any quicker. You can go faster and faster, and that will take you a lot longer than if you just would have slowed it down a little. Sometimes in life, and it's usually most times in life, the more challenging something is in the beginning, the easier it will be at the end. The easier it is in the beginning, the more challenging it will be in the end. So you have to ask yourselves, people, would you say that you fall into the category of a tzaddik or you fall into the category of a rasha? We should never look at ourselves like a wicked, or like we said, don't call yourself stupid, right? You should never look at yourself like a wicked person. Because when you look at yourself like a wicked person, you open yourself up to do everything wrong in the book. And not only that, we disregard the small little things in life and don't recognize the power they hold. But if someone looks at themselves like a righteous person, then they say, every decision I'm going to make, I don't mean like literally every lifted my hand, how high should I lift it, there goes my life. I'm not saying you should be nuts. That's called OCD. And don't hide behind Judaism now, right? That's OCD. But when we're making decisions in our life, what jobs we're going to take, which communities we're going to live in, perhaps who we're going to marry, perhaps which schools we're going to be involved with or not involved with, who we're going to support and not support, which trips we're going to go on and when we're going to go and how long we're going to go, stop and think for a second. What will be the outcome? And understand something, people. What I'm saying now applies to every single one of us in this room. Every single one of us is still alive. And if you're not, you don't hear me. Every single one of us is still alive, which means we have plenty of time to make a lot more mistakes. Or we have plenty of times to take the more challenging road, the one which is a little more difficult, the one which may be longer, but at the end it'll be much shorter, much easier, much less problematic. And that, my friends, comes down to actually making decisions. So from now on, what we've got to do is ask ourselves, you're going to have to go through a challenge. That's how life works. Do you want the challenge now, and then life will flow nicely? Or do you prefer to have it flow easy now? Don't go through the challenges, just let it, don't worry about everything, just keep going, and then later on have to deal with the cleanup of the mess. And perhaps that could take even a lifetime to fix. That's the decision we have to ask. So when we go back now, are we at Tzaddik or we are Russia? Do we recognize that we're going to fall? That's reality. And do we recognize the fact that every decision we make is cataclysmic? One who starts to open our eyes to that thing, we're going to be living a life which is not good. We're going to live a life which is amazing. Because the outcome of these decisions that we make are going to change everything from here on in. Any questions, comments, stories, jokes, attacks, please give them verbal and physical. Awkward moment of silence.
A little surprising.
Yeah.
What if you don't know, like, which one you are? Like, you don't know if you're a tzaddik or Russia. Like, for example, with the Facebook thing, right? Like, you were like, a tzaddik knows that it's not a good thing, and like, a Russia, like, doesn't. Like, they convince themselves, oh, no, it's fine, like, whatever, a lot of good things come from it. But, like, what if you know it's not a good thing, but like, you still have it, and like, it's not good enough to get rid of it? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Aseh lecha rav, ukanei lecha chaver. Aseh lecha rav means make for yourself a mentor and acquire for yourself a friend. Get someone who you could speak with, who you could talk to, someone who you trust, someone you developed a relationship with, in order that you can bounce ideas off them. Because we are so good at lying. We're the best at lying to ourselves. We got so good that we fool ourselves even. And when you have someone you're bouncing it off, usually they're able to see. We can always see everyone else's problems. And we know when they're lying. The problem is if it's us. And if we care enough, it all depends if you care. If you don't care, forget it. But the fact you asked the question means you care. If you care enough, then that means that you stop to listen to what's being said, even if you don't agree. You at least hear it out, and perhaps it's correct. And then it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it. That comes to a cost-benefit analysis of getting real data to know what to be putting in to actually make the decision, as opposed to putting the wrong data in, and then all of a sudden your cost-benefit is totally off. In which case, how do you know? You've got to get people that you trust. Judaism is all about community. Judaism is about an idea of where you have to say someone you can speak with that you care about. Aseh lecha rav doesn't have to mean a rabbi. It could be a rabbi, it could be a woman, it could be a man. Someone that you trust and that you feel close with. A friend may even be more valuable, like Rabbeinu Yonah brings down in Pirkei Avos over there in chapter Mishnah 6. Even more valuable is to have a friend. Someone that you could bounce these ideas off. Be careful who it is though, because they might mess you over on Facebook. Anything else, peeps? Yeah,
Just to clarify, were you saying a tzaddik is more likely to choose the challenging thing first and then have it easier later on?
yeah, I'm saying it. Tzaddik is willing to go through the challenge now in order to not have to deal with it later. What would be an example of a challenge? To give you an example, what do I mean by that concept? Let's take a look like this. You're working in an office and you have a person who uses foul language, okay? They use inappropriate language. And you don't like that. What do you do when you're in a circumstance where you're going to be working with this person for the next bunch of years, and they're in your office, and they say, you're like, nice to meet you, and they use inappropriate language? What do you say to them? Is it uncomfortable? Good, now's the challenge. So you have to make a choice. Are you going to now just take the easy route of like, I'm not going to say anything? Or take the difficult route, I'm going to say something? The easy route is I'm not going to say anything, but you know what's going to happen then? In their head, it's going to be like, oh, it's okay for me to talk like that. And the next day they're going to continue, and the next day, and then it becomes like, well, I can't say anything now. You know what I'm talking about? You ever met someone, you didn't really catch their name? And then after like 6 months, you don't know their name, but you're past the point where you could ask them their name. You get it? Do you want to take the difficult challenge of saying right away, I'm sorry, I didn't get it, what was your name? Or take the easy route, it's okay, I'll just let it go, I don't want to make them feel bad or make me feel stupid. And then for 6 months, not know their name and never be able to call them or ask them, you understand? Do you take the challenging right now and go with them? I don't mean in public say you watch your language, but after say like, I'm sorry, I didn't want to embarrass you or whatever, I'm a little uncomfortable about that language if that's okay. And that might be uncomfortable. But from that moment on, they're going to be like, oh, okay, I hear you. Or not, or they'll curse more. I don't know, you understand? But they might be like, how dare you, beep, 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 beep. You like to move it, whatever it may be. But very often a person can respect that if you approach them in a way, think with wisdom, and you say like, listen, I'm sorry, I just don't appreciate that. Let's say you're in a relationship, and your partner, your spouse, says, oh, you're so stupid. Now you're not so comfortable with the person. So you don't say anything, I'm just going to let it go. What happens in their head? It's okay for me to talk like that to them. The next time, oh, you're such an idiot, oh, you're so dumb, and it starts to build. Now you feel more and more uncomfortable, get it? Or do you say something the other way? Oh, you're so stupid. Excuse me, what did you just say? I just said that. Listen, really, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry, you can't talk to me like that, I'm sorry. And he'll be like, either he'll be more aggressive and break it off, or he'll say, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And the next time you do something, oh, you're so, let me help you. See the difference? Do you choose the easy route and let things go now, and then have to deal with the difficulties forever? How many of us have done that? How many of us have taken the easy route and not said anything, just lived with it, kept going with it, and now we live in pain? Or do you take the very uncomfortable route of dealing with the situation now, and then not having to deal with it anymore? Make sense? Anything else, people? Yeah.
You mentioned that tzaddikim like weigh every decision and take a long time to make decisions.
I don't know about take a long time, but they weigh at decisions. Yeah.
So like, what about people who like can't make a decision, or they have a really hard time?
Asay l'chara. This is what we discussed before. Find a mentor or someone who you know has three qualities. Very important to have these three qualities. They have knowledge, they have time, and they have likability. Knowledge, time, and likability. If they have knowledge but no time, even if you like them, they can't help you. If they have knowledge and time but you don't like them, it's a problem. If they have time and you like them but they don't know anything, can't help you, right? So it's fine, you gotta find someone, a mentor of sorts, who has the three things that will give you the time of day, has the information, and you feel comfortable with, and speak the things over. Yeah, sir.
It's just kind of elaborating on something that you said. The example being, I'll come home, it's midnight, it's 12:30, I'm hungry. And before I'm even awake to what I'm doing,
really are
I'm
friends.
I'm in the fridge, and all the food is inside me, and 10 minutes later I'm saying like, I really need to eat, I'm going to sleep soon. And it took me a long time to get to the point where I could even become aware
That I'm
as I'm
doing it.
opening the fridge, but it didn't help, but I'm at least aware
Step one,
that
I
I'm
did it.
opening the fridge and I'm doing this, and later I'm gonna say, I didn't really need to eat this. The point being that you can make a decision about something, but that's just in a vacuum. You say, oh, I'm not gonna do something that doesn't really count, because you're gonna be in a situation, whichever that is, I mean, that's a trivial situation, what I'm talking about, something more serious, where you're gonna be challenged with something, and it's easy for you to say now, oh, I won't do that. But that doesn't count, because you have to be able to not do it when you're in that situation.
It's the
where you're
steps.
totally out of control.
It's the steps well before this step.
Right, so you have to know yourself.
Which means before you walk in the house, you already have to be aware of the fact that I'm gonna walk in and go straight for the fridge. So before you even walk in, you have to have a game plan. You have to have, or make sure in the fridge you have fruit, right? Make sure, or make water, or just make sure there's nothing there, right? Some people have a problem.
That's the idea, I would just elaborate on what you
Yeah.
said, but there, if somebody else tells you together, it's not useful, like others, but if you tell yourself together.
That's right, you must understand in the first place, yeah.
Question regarding what you said, then you said what half and so on and so on. What if you have two friends like that? And each of those friends is telling you a totally different thing, a totally different, like,
You have two close friends,
Yeah.
you confide in them, and they tell you opposite directions.
yes.
Do both of them. No, I'm kidding, don't do that, I'm kidding. You'll notice it says, Aseh lecha rav, ukaneh lecha chaver, which means, get a rabbi and a friend. It doesn't say friends. Now that doesn't mean you can't have friends. But it does mean that the Talmud discusses, when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, things get burnt. You understand? Or they don't taste as good, or they taste too good, I don't know, right? If you're not meant to go ask advice from every person that you go and you have an issue with. People do that all the time, and it's a big mistake. I'm dealing with an issue, let me speak to you, let me speak to you, let me speak to him, let me speak to them, let me speak to the other. You're just going to get yourself in trouble, because it's not going to be two things. You're going to have 5 different opinions, and each one's going to be arguing with the other. Which means that's why it has to be someone in a particular direction of life that you feel is in line with what you understand to be truth, and confide in them. We don't go to 50 people or even 2. It's just going to make things confusing. And let's say it is 2 people. There's a primary and a secondary, which means you can go to the secondary and speak with them, and then bring it back to the primary and say, well, what do you think about this? Because they said that. And then let them be the ones going to be machriya, going to be making the decisions. This doesn't mean be stupid. It doesn't mean you can't think for yourself. Nobody's saying you can't think for yourself. We're talking about under the circumstances when we feel it's beyond us. When we feel like it's a little bit challenging and I'm not really sure. Or even if you are sure, just as a confiding to work into this. Makes sense? All right, I'm going to stay up for a little couple of long, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Until then, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. Have a wonderful evening and goodbye.